normally the super hyped mid lane matchup, who's going to outshine the other. Neither of these guys have actually been performing in team fights. They have the lowest damage per minute and the lowest damage share of any of the other mid laners here at the tournament. So Maple and Bjergsen not necessarily performing at the level you would expect them to.
Well, solo lane ban starting off for TSM on the blue side here. LeBlanc and Rumble banned away by them. Flash Wolves starting, I think, where we expect. There's one top lane ban in Kenna, and then Lulu banned away as well.
It doesn't feel like Flash Wolves can opt into too many top lane bans. We've seen in yesterday, for example, 40% of all bans were top lane. I feel like if Flash Wolves start opting into top lane bans, the effective champion pool gets so narrow that MMD is just going to end up in one of those unadvantageous matchups. So honestly, they need to stay away from top lane to allow MMD to breathe, because we've already seen ban enough tanks, blind pick Fiora like SKT, and MMD just doesn't have champion pool to deal with those scenarios.
Yeah, and I feel like this is interesting because TSM has gotten rid of the Fizz, even though Haunter did have a good game on it. It prevents the flex pick from Flash Wolves later. I think that's what we saw SKT do.
Yes.
What we're going to see a lot of future teams do. But I feel like Flash Wolves may have missed an opportunity here. They're so scared of the Kennen, and they're so scared of any of the shielding champions. They trade 1 for 0.
Yep.
And this is something almost no teams have been willing to opt into.
Scared of Ivern as well. That's our last ban, and pretty easy first pick karma here for TSM. So we'll see how the Flash Wolves want to respond. This would be quite priority. There's Syndra first pick for the Flash Wolves, and maybe a Lee Sin or some sort of comfort caster. Yep, going to take Lee Sin for himself and away from Sven. These two champions actually do both of those things.
Yeah, and those are the two champions they had when they played their game against SKT. So I can see why they want that priority so early. It's also 2 of Svenskeren and Bjergsen's best champions. TSM, though, very quick, going with meta picks.
Yeah, it's proactivity for the side of Flash Wolves. They want to be the early game focused game and actually find themselves a lead into the mid game. So I think both these teams kind of play that way. Largely fairly standard meta, and then just try and take over in the mid game. But it feels like Flash Wolves are going to be very happy with this draft. Honestly, the draft from Flash Wolves so far will be ultra standard if they opted into the Ashe.
Yeah, and here's another interesting thing. Normally when you see the Syndra, you expect an echo in response, and that can get banned out by Flash Wolves now in the second ban phase. But TSM needs Turtle, they feel like, on a safer marksman. He's had good games on Caitlyn. He actually had a 0-death game on Caitlyn in which they won. And then as far as junglers are concerned, Svenskeren has looked very poor on junglers not named Lee Sin or Graves this tournament.
Well, he's on Graves at least. There's a Renekton ban for Flash Wolves. Kled responded in kind for TSM, so that pool is shrinking real quickly.
It feels like Galio, for example, is really shooting up as a priority pick when it comes to just top laners that are available. Gragas and Galio, the 2 obvious pushing top laners that can be selected, and any more top lane bans, and it may just be one available to Flash Wolves and maybe force someone like Haunter onto a carry. Something like a Fiora is looking like it could be very valuable, because we're getting to basically the tank pool, and even then, only really the dregs of the tank pool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised to see the Gragas ban, unless they're trying to force a Galio ban from TSM because they don't necessarily want to trade tanks against them. But now I'm becoming more and more curious about what MMD would play. At this point, it would be Galio because they didn't ban.
Galio and Nautilus, I guess, are the obvious tanks that kind of fit here. Shen has been played a lot this tournament, but going to be not expecting it as much in the spot where it is. And Fiora is a really interesting pick against MMD's effective champion pool, so that's why they're flashing it. And maybe they're just opting into it, because I had the privilege of talking to Huni early in the tournament, and you remember when they played the Galio, they banned Fiora, and this is one of those tricky matchups where we remember Fiora as the tank killer. We still haven't seen it on the Rift, but this is said to be a matchup where Fiora can do some dirty things.
I mean, Malzahar was the last ban there for TSM, so still targeting that support pool. I think Haunter might just opt into a tank matchup, because, I mean, look at what he's done. On bruisers like Renekton and Camille before the nerfs, he was looking good. He looked good in a lot of tank matchups as well, and on something like Cannon. But a super hard carry like Fiora just doesn't feel like something Haunter's got practice just yet. So there's going to be Shen, and this could be a flex, a support highlight here for TSM.
Yeah, it's absolutely what they're doing. Potentially Flash Wolves could have saw through it as well. That's why they would not ban the Echo for the Syndra matchup. It's another one of these flexes for TSM, and it's a callback to the team composition they played day 1 against the Gigabyte Marines, where they put a Lulu mid lane and still had the Nami support. A lot of eggs in the Wild Turtle and Svenskeren damage basket. And that did not work out for them before, and with so much on the line in this last day, that's what they're going with again.
And again, the pick you scrutinize, I guess the ban you scrutinize is the Malzahar in the spot where it did. You were talking about, okay, Gragas ban, are they trying to draw out, say, for example, the final ban of the Galio? No, they went for the Malzahar. They noticed that Syndra, Lee Sin, a lot of roaming pressure mid-game picks were being selected. They foresaw a Malzahar, but the end result is that we once again get this Galio versus Shen matchup that will go one way. Galio outpushes and then some Shen, and that lets Karsa.
Oh, they didn't go Nami, sorry. I thought they locked in Nami, but they switched it to the Ahri right at the end. So the whole flex pick thing I just said, throw that out the window.
I mean, it is a possibility. Bjergsen's got a famous mid lane karma.
I'm sorry. Why did they not lock in Nami? All right, they switched it right at the end. They tricked me.
I think you looked away seeing the Nami and then they flipped it.
I got 2 lost in conversation.
You're rattled, Jack. Come on, stand by.
Totally different story here.
Deep breaths. We got this.
And think about what we just saw from Faker and his Ahri. And despite struggling in a lane matchup, and I think Bjergsen will also struggle versus Syndra, even though it is a very skillful matchup.
Yeah.
The amount of things Bjergsen can do, the amount of plays he can make is incredible. That's, I think, why Ahri is such a strong mid laner. But that's a lot of pressure on Bjergsen, who's been having kind of an underwhelming tournament for an otherwise international superstar.
I mean, the theory of the Ahri is to, again, in a skill matchup, get ahead, and then is a stronger 1-3-1 champion than the Syndra. Try and rotate around the Syndra's inability to hit a side wave as safely as an Ahri. But the theory is there, putting it into practice, and again, a lot of the late game team fight damage needing to come out of Wild Turtle. It's still harkening back to that strategy that TSM struggled with.
Yeah, exactly. But the big difference is that Ahri still has side lane presence and can be the second threat, which buys time and doesn't put everything in the Wild Turtle basket. That requires Bjergsen to actually go in and be aggressive and be a distraction, something that I feel like Bjergsen hasn't really done a lot of this tournament. He's done a lot of not being the one to be blamed. He'll sit back in a lot of team fights around full health and not maximize his damage. Oftentimes that's because of the chaos of the game and people getting picked off, but he has to do better for them to make it out of group stage.
I mean, the person who I think's really put their body on the line is Svenskeren, and against that brush will certainly be putting his body on the line.
This is incredibly dicey. They're hoping to do some type of cheeky steal, and Hauntzer would have been spotted right there, and they can probably run him down. He's got to be so careful, and he's going back.
Yeah, this is the bad time. Now finds MMD, sees 2 more, and now he has to book it. We'll see if he levels something. Does get taunted over by the Galio, exhausted down as well. Haunter still trying to run away. The rest of the team's coming there, but Mabel plans a cute cast against it, and that's first blood leaks in.
Letting the Lee Sin get the first blood means that jungle item will come early, and the pain can certainly be felt in other lanes. TSM do use this time, the inevitability of Haunter going down, to get some advanced vision. Seem to be making a play on their own, which maybe go unscouted by Flash Wolves.
Yeah, you have to criticize TSM for their early game, though. This is the second game where they've suffered a death before minions have spawned. They were trying to make a very aggressive move into that jungle, but you can do that with 5 people, get a ward down, and still have time to make it down to the bottom side, and that would leave them open for wards on the other side, just getting too greedy with their level 1 strats, and again getting punished.
Well, see a vision there, at least on the red buff, so TSM will have info, but I saw a pretty quick ping for flash shots onto that blue, so I believe they have at least a good idea of what's happening, but Sven for now is going to steal away that blue headshot there onto Betty. Good poke by Biofrost, keeps coming in onto the Ashe. I mean, we talk about shifts of power here for TSM. This is a game where Haunter sacrificed a lot in this draft to get them to this point, and that means Bjergsen and Turtle have more power, which has not been how they've won this tournament.
Yeah, and also Sword Art exhausted Haunter for some fairly unknown reason, because maybe they were thinking that he was going to be able to get away after he already skilled Q. That really hurts their laning game. It hurts their ability to all in and only increases the chance that TSM pushes them in early.
Well, Turtle being level 2 and getting the first trades. Little point, we're talking about mid laners who will put their line up, who really will be aggressive. It feels like Perkz has been one of the few this tournament to really try to take over a game from the mid lane position. If you remember his Fizz game earlier in the tournament where he really warped a drop and allowed G2 to get to late game, to allow Sven to get to late game. I think Perkz deserves a lot of compliments in that regard, because especially Maple and Bjergsen, 2 players we know can do that on the international stage, have largely been pretty conservative so far this tournament.
Well, you can see Karsa looking for an invade, but he's not going to get this. Red Sven able to take it down. Karsa losing the double loss means that he kind of might be a bit lost here.
No,
looking for a bot lane gank potentially.
That's what I thought he was doing. I was hoping to go into the bottom side, but then Wild Turtle and Biofrost immediately fell back. So even though they didn't have a ward, when that type of action happens in the bottom lane, Flash Wolves can only assume that there was a ward somewhere on Karsa. So I'm almost certain that Karsa thinks he was spotted in a ward there.
Pinged out also we saw on the minimap. So the 3 buff will come out. Oh, everything being equal. So Costa will have gold, but not necessarily the experience lead, given that Svenskeren was able to get the 3 buff.
Monster, unfortunately, was again the sacrifice. First blood over the Flash Wolves, but Svenskeren feeling good. Level 4 right now, farming pretty efficiently through the jungle. And nice to see some safe play there from the TSM duel. And they play quite aggressive in a lot of the matchups. This one, no exception, but kind of knowing they have to play back a bit more, respecting class. And I believe taking up the blast cone as well with some pretty good vision. So they're going to clear this out. Things are going to proceed as normal.
I mean, Haunter will not have priority in top. And we know on standard lanes, we've said it all year, how big pushing lanes are in this meta. To me, it really needs to be Bjergsen actually getting kill pressure onto the Syndra. Because if Syndra is able to have kill pressure and push in and potentially take down the Ahri, plus Shen is being pushed in, that's when there's a cavalcade of pressure over to the Flash Wolves, really heaping it onto TSM. So I think a lot of pressure is on Bjergsen, who could have gone for the Karma mid lane, actually going for the Ahri. He needs to make it work.
Ow. Definitely ow, and the timing of the stun as well means Bjergsen misses out on the cannon. I would definitely not say Ahri is a counter pick to Syndra whatsoever,
matchup, right?
But it is something that can be played into the Syndra, so you're willing to do it. Still going to be a difficult game here for Bjergsen.
Back in to take some early losses, I think, but we'll see if Sven can help out. Ahri's got incredible gank assist. And Sven should have the damage to back it up, but right now, Maple pushing the lane in, does have a good CS lead, but Sven continuing to counter jungle. His bottom lane is pushing up. A little dangerous with Maple fading towards the right-hand side, but Sven actually looking pretty good on a lot of these early counter jungle attempts.
Yeah, he had pretty good counter jungle timing against SKT, even though they got obliterated later in that game. So for all the times that Svenskeren gets caught out in the jungle for what seems like a really bad invade, he does have some good ones, and he's clearly not dissuaded continuing to go for them.
I think his level of play has actually increased as the tournament has gone on as well. His first 2 days, certainly a lot of scrutiny. People were making all sorts of memes and innuendos about Sven being replaced, but I think his last 2 days have been solid. At worst, you know, honestly, he's had some good games himself, whereas like Trick, for example, have been struggling as Bjergsen.
Oh, gets cancelled.
That's really tough because Maple is looking to hit level 6. It's going to potentially have the cannon minion wave be missed out for Bjergsen, so should have been a little bit farther back before that recall.
And D roam down as well, because again, we expect Gallia to be pushing in that lane pretty much 24/7. Virgo playing it safe, double Dorans, and now a Negatron cloak, so respecting the threat of Maple and MD or Caster coming in. And now Sven snuck down to the bottom lane, but a nice ward from Flash Wolves does spot him.
Low percentage gank as well, given that there is no real assist, barring a W from Biofrost on that Karma. Back to Korean. Caster uses the time to clear away Raptors as well and try to catch up on some of that experience that was lost on the 3 buff.
Yeah, Maple definitely asserting his will in that mid lane as the Syndra, getting that extra wave with the recall interrupt, helping his case there. He should have a more favorable back as well because that gold able to complete his lost chapter and then get the Negatron, much better than just an extra Dorans.
Well, this reaction should feel a lot safer now, still has sums up, and now his ultimate, so any all-in likely going to be avoided if Maple and Caster go for it.
Yeah, and aside from just the items that give stats, Maple's got 2 control wards. He can control one side of the map and then stay in lane, wait for it to get cleared off, and just replace that. So the river control that Maple is actually going to provide for his team with those 2 wards is very high.
If they can get the double control ward down, then the Ahri's win condition, which is getting a gank, like you said earlier, Pastry Time, hitting the charm, the gank assist is strong, because Syndra will often be clearing and harassing under turret. Double control ward is down, the kill pressure goes away, and it's just basically a one-way traffic for the Syndra.
Here's that dangerous invade coming in.
This could be a bit mistimed here for Sven. Does have Smite, but Caster does not. Might look to take it down quickly. Bjergsen did pretty quickly push the lane in to make sure this happens. Sven, they're going to get caught. Does get the Smite down by Caster. Oh, nice ulti out from Sven, actually. Caster did not have kick there.
He was not level 6 because Svenskeren has been stealing away that side of the jungle. That's risky right there. Burns his ultimate, saves his flash, but does deny Maple the blue buff.
It is remnants of the early game, though, and that's the thing you can say there is okay. There's definitely been times in the regular season where Svenskeren doesn't have priority in mid lane and recalls. He steals Raptors and dies, but at least there's an element of risk-reward there being evaluated by Sven. And he comes away with the buff, and he's trying to just provide some sort of early game pressure, given that top lane, you can see it on the minimap, it's going as expected.
Yeah, and I will say that with Sword Art moving over to the blue buff, that gave TSM a window to harass Betty even further, so probably not worth the risk, but Svenskeren did accomplish something with that invade, and TSM get a minor benefit. Flash was still in a lot of control though after that first blood.
And MMD shoving in top side as Carter invades onto this side of the jungle. Maple joining up as well, so Haunter thinks Snitch that is getting dive, but this should be an early turret for TSM. Graves joining this means he should get the turret first. Good arrow they want to spend. Shield there from Bifrost, and that turret's dead. Spend, quick draws forward, and there's first turret goal to TSM.
And if it was a multi-step plan, as you outlined, Jack, actually big ups to TSM. Remember, they also had Stand United. So that's the reason why Flashwolves couldn't really walk up to contest the last few hits onto the turrets. They do give up first turret blood. As you can see clearly on the screen, it'll be answered, but it's TSM on the front foot, which, given that level 1 was an abomination, is still heartening to see.
Absolutely. Now the question for Flashwolves is going to be, can they do anything with this top lane priority they have acquired? MMD has had the shove on Haunter for most of the early game, hasn't made successful roam plays, and now the map is open for him. He can leave for much longer after shoving in the wave because it takes much longer for the minion waves to crash into the secondary turret.
And it does feel like Flashwolves can kind of echo how SKT played the first match of this tournament with their Galio draft, because they do have 3 ranged auto attackers to play one side of the map and Galio to wave clear on the other side. So if they can force any of these mismatches on side waves trading turrets, they should very clearly trade up, and all TSM can hope for is turret dives with the Stand United, because obviously the wave clear mismatch between Shen and Galio that we talked about so much already today is inherent.
Well, great little blue steal there by Flashwolves regardless. Ben tried to snipe it with his ultimate, but didn't quite get it. And you can see just how much pressure MMD is putting up in top, but good vision from Flashwolves as well. There's a control wall just to the left of the mid turret that's been there for a long time. No one has passed through it yet. And that's the ward right there. I mean, it's just one of those spots that you rarely ever check as a jungler.
Yeah, that and the ward right behind the red buff for some of the best spots. TSM, though, turning for Drake on top of the ward, but Flashwolves is all in recall patterns, so it should be going over TSM.
Again, smartly playing the map here for TSM, kind of using their strength where they find it. Hanzo keeping pretty even in CS as well, so that's going well at least as far as the Shen goes. I mean, maybe didn't expect to win bottom lane this side, but Turtle was up 20 CS at one point. It's kind of dipped back down to 10 or 15, but Bjergsen playing safe when he needs to. Now as a Hextech and an extra Ruby Crystal, looks like Proto Belt next, and Turtle laying into Betty Ace in the hole, going to chunk that health all the way down again.
The thing I take away from this tournament, specifically the last couple of days, that once again, just like last year's Worlds, TSM are a very well-drilled team. It feels like they very often know what to do when they're in standard situations. When they're 5-6 kills down, sure, the cavalcade will come through. But when it comes to, okay, I see 2 people recalling, I know where there's pressure, I'm going to take a Drake. Those sort of plays from TSM, the 1, 2, 3 plays, have been very clean.
Yeah, and the struggle now for them is their lack of vision. They just ran through the river mostly blind. They're trying to get some vision down and get the control wards out. And if you're talking about what to do in this drill, they just win bottom lane with Caitlyn kill the turret. You want to move that up towards the mid lane or the top lane and push. The struggle is Syndra and Galio have such amazing wave clear that it's very hard to transition up and actually get anything done.
And given that Galio has pushed in so far, you also have the heroic entrance kind of being the headache as well, because when you try to play the mid lane, it is actually a lane close to the Galio. It's very much in range of just a small roam. But they're going to pick up the Glimpse of the Void as well, and maybe it goes on to the Lee Sin. I'm actually unsure who you give it to here, just because Galio does so much of his work from range.
I think the general choice has been Galio, because it's real tough. This guy's sticking in his side lane, he can roam away. Seen a lot of Galios pick this one up here. And it is funny to see how many Rift Heralds have been picked up here at MSI. But I mean, MMD was already having a good time in this matchup. The CS being even is about all Haunter could have asked for.
And let's not forget, this tournament is kind of a love letter to the current Glimpse of the Void, because the big changes on the PB and live now on the patch means it's going to be different mechanics when it comes to next season. So enjoy it while it's here, folks. This is the last hurrah of the Glimpse of the Void.
Enjoy the Glimpse of the Void that lasts for 20 minutes and has low impact for those 20 minutes. But it does have impact, unlike the very high moments of the current turret killer on the live servers. But for MMD, don't underestimate how much damage Galio does to turrets now, because that thing by level 18 stacks up to 270 extra damage on the first hit after it's charged up, and Galio also gets to use his passive on turrets. So MMD will actually be a turret destroyer with that buff.
Throwing a nice bomb gauntlet, and we're chunking turrets, so that's something fun thing to look for.
Well, Sunfire right now, in case the push wasn't enough there, Haunter with just his teammate and his Shen, so things are going to get tricky. TSM did attempt to steal the blue, but again, showing respect without vision there. Flashwolves doing a good job defending it. Maple does get yet another one. So Bjergsen been struggling a bit in the lane, but again, he's also trying to keep that CS up, and maybe we can question some of these lane assignments here for TSM, but Total at least is guaranteeing that he gets some farm. I mean, he went Cull here, despite the lead that he's got, and he has boots too and a pickaxe. Like, this man is just trying to get to that late game.
Standard as standard can be, it feels like this current phase where TSM would love to creep to the mid lane, take that turret, but Karsh has been covering it. The control wards are down. It's very difficult for that next step, and something like a cull is a small victory while everything else is drawn out around the map.
And I do have to say, if you're going to play passive for the first 15 minutes, Flash Wolves is the team to do it against. Flash Wolves, of all teams, have the fewest kills at 15 minutes of any team of the MSI group stage so far. So this game is an example that both these teams have actually had fairly passive early games. Go with the call.
Oh, that was a sick combo. Bjergsen not going to get stun combo. There's the ultimate out, and Casa collects the credit.
First game-breaking moment of the game, it feels like, is at 14 minutes. They used everything on Bjergsen. We'll see what that means for the mid lane. As also, Flash Wolves have this priority with the Glimpse of the Void and the Galio on the top lane as well.
Also not having fun time at all. I mean, just couldn't use his Shen ultimate, even if he wanted to, because MMD's got so much pressure. Flash was now actually looking for a dive here onto the low health Haunter, but all of a sudden they did alleviate mid lane pressure with Spencer and now Turtle moving in, but they're going to lose something here on the top up. Blue buff once again over to Flash Wolves.
Yeah, 15 minutes about to crest. That's the end of that passive early game for Flash Wolves. Do have to point out that Bjergsen has Exhaust instead of Cleanse, which a lot of mid laners will take Cleanse just against the Syndra, let alone the Ashe. So really getting punished right there as the fairly long-range Ashe arrow does chain the stun onto Bjergsen and give him no way of escape.
I mean, the only way the Exhaust makes sense is if it's about playing through the mid lane, looking for those kills, and then rotating to the 1-3-1. But the Cleanse also kind of does the double duty, so you really start checking the checks and balances, and maybe Cleanse just outright wins, all things considered.
Yeah, the theory behind the Exhaust Azari is if you're ever trying to all-in a Syndra, you get to close range, you get the Exhaust, you make it so the Syndra can't ult back to turn the trade around, but a Cleanse would be the more defensive option, and if Bjergsen is trying to be in an aggressive mindset, you can see the Exhaust coming through, but punished for it right there.
Yeah, great little combo there from Flash Wolves. Picks themselves up a second kill here. It's been a very macro and farm-oriented early game so far. TSM keeping the gold respectable, but Flash Wolves with that lead now. 1,000 gold up, turrets are even. First straight did go to TSM, the next one's an Ocean, so it's not really going to prompt too much action. The Flash Wolves are a team that we know does power up from this point onwards. Starting to kind of hit some item breakpoints. Blade there for Betty, Abyssal Scepter there for Maple, with the Lost Chapter moving into what I assume is the Morellonomicon. I mean, Total's really still farming for it looks like IE first. There's a lot of work for TSM to do, and Flash Wolves should start turning it up soon, as good cleanse from Maple going to get him out from under the charm.
Charm hit, but instant cleanse means that nothing more will happen. TSM has kind of the advantageous lane assignments because they can send Turtle in the mid lane and the short lane, and potentially move Ahri to the bot lane. And Syndra obviously not as adept in a side lane, but for now, it's all kind of being negated, so ends up being standard as standard can be. The scouting report was that these teams are very standard in the early to mid game, and even that flashy kill onto Ahri didn't really reap any extra reward.
And they also both kind of defaulted back to the tank in the top lane. MMD has had the push advantage this whole time, but hasn't really made any of the big roam plays because teams haven't necessarily forced. They know that both Shen and Galio can lead to a lot of disruption in fights, and most of these teams are just kind of opted for farming or a very slow setup on the play.
Pasta kick by for us back in, but Stand United there. Great flash from Bio out of the Ashe arrow, and now Spencer gonna maybe see if that TP completes. Bjergsen looks for a pick, does get sorted, no, needs a little bit more, moves forward there, now gets to kill Galio ulti very late, trying to get himself out, and MMD is gonna be safe now. Turtle actually backing onto MMD, but he's kiting out of the Idol of Duran. TSM actually get a kill back there.
Casa deep in enemy lines, but he'll back away. Really nice turnaround, and specifically sidestepping all the engagement. They could actually pick up the kill and get out. We saw kills traded on both sides. Will TSM actually be able to get an objective?
Yeah, every time I've talked about a passive game, they immediately spring to action. MMD goes again.
Turtle, you get a stun. Should not be standing at MMD. Starts with a flash on, and Maple finishes it with style. Hansa gonna try and clear this out. Flash was getting good priority, but that should mean the Drake is there. Sven was there, and Turtle just a little too far forward.
Still pretty short death timers here, but because the respawns have come through for the Flash Wolves, and because TSM expended so much on that initial kill, Ocean Drake, after the long exchange, goes to Flash Wolves, as you say.
On the upside, Jack, at least now we know the trigger word to get the action going, so we'll be judicious. We don't want to overuse it, but at least now we know that talking about passivity gets the action. So, again, it's been very few objectives separating the teams. We will get the replay. It all started off with the attempted insect onto Biofrost.
Yeah, Vision Denial, the name of the game, but the Ashe Arrow misses both Sven and Biofrost. And then because Sven used the ult to escape, he gets a lot of damage on Sword Art. Bjergsen uses everything just to get about 50 damage as the last hit comes through. You know, Betty also flash healed in that to try and save and didn't get it, but when that taunt ends, just back up, be behind your team. Again, Turtle caught out of position, and it cost TSM the Drake.
Total wave clearing away. Does have Infinity Edge now, so seen a lot of different Caitlyn builds, I feel like. Seen a lot of Phantom Dance this tournament. Definitely a Zeal Adam being next, but I think PD versus Hurricane's an interesting one. Kind of curious on your thoughts here.
I actually don't mind the Infinity Edge just because it can kind of turn it into a pseudo pick comp where an Ahri charm hits, and if you get an Infinity Edge crit, you can actually burst down one member. Usually you go the Hurricane, that's kind of the percentage build, but TSM not focusing on the wave control. They do have Graves and Ahri to help, and Karma even that matters, so it does work in certain ways, but you give up other things at the same time.
That's the biggest thing. TSM has not been able to siege turrets. If they now immediately run up to turrets, try to wave clear fast and get there, you can criticize for the Hurricane, but right now, wave clear not the priority. Instead, hoping someone steps on a trap and you get that huge Infinity Edge crit. And honestly, it's a small point. It's minutia because 2-3 minutes from now, he's going to have a Zeal, and at 25 minutes, he'll have the Hurricane.
I think that's the thing. Tuttle has actually had a very good start to this game. Still 20 CS ahead of Betty in the lane there. And again, just farming up. TSM playing pretty slow but confident in A total, starting to get things done. And we did see Bjergsen, despite actually a very significant CS deficit, making plays. I think it's very interesting to watch the top lane is here, because although Haunter is continually getting pushed in, when he's finding spots to keep pushing a side wave, you can kind of see how different the globals are. MMD has to walk pretty far to get his ultimate in there, or use his teleport. Haunter can either TP or just use the ultimate wherever he is.
The end result is that it feels like the game is being won and lost in the vision line, just because that's the only thing that really allows the Galio to push up or the Shen Ahri to push up. However, in mid lane, TSM get a few shots, but again, it's only a few shots, and otherwise it is this very even line of scrimmage before both teams.
Just trying to open up a little more space, I think. Haunter again, double globals at the ready, so he's getting things started in that bottom side of the map with that other Ocean Drake just taking it down. Next Drake is Infernal, by the way, so the teams are trying to be encouraged to make things happen a little more in the mid game. That may certainly cause some fireworks. Maple, nice stun onto Bjergsen also, but he's now kind of fully committing to playing this side lane, and if he can do it safely, should be a lot of extra farm, and Maple's just not going to be as good in that spot.
Yeah, and still just an incredibly close game. You can look at the jungler's gold and itemization. They're actually even in gold right now. The next time Karsa goes back to base, he'll be able to pick up the Black Cleaver as well. The big advantage is actually opening in the mid lane, where Maple Syndra is 1,000 gold above Bjergsen. That's traded with the Marksman gold. So the points of power a little bit more on TSM side for Wild Turtle. Not the most promising thing to hear if you're a TSM fan, but they do have the shielding to help him.
And this doesn't really feel like Flash Wolves have found a way to play through Maple having some good item break-even points. It's largely been wave clearing against the Caitlyn or just answering an Ahri split push. They haven't really been able to get the ward setups for there to be a pick comp, which obviously is a lot more straightforward on Flash Wolves given what they've drafted. So the end result is that gold, sure, it's been put into items, but not necessarily into kills or further snowball.
Yeah, and when we've seen this type of game from Flash Wolves, it is a little bit reminiscent of when they played SKT. They don't necessarily blow you away at 21 minutes, but they will slowly get vision control, at least when they're playing well, find that one random pick, it feels like, in the jungle, and then just steamroll through to a Baron. So Flash Wolves has been able to play from here for victory so far this tournament.
All right, this is actually a nice play here from both sides. TSM gonna move to the top lane. Sven and Bjerg working on this, but Maple's like, I'm just gonna gank the split push lane and at least try and get a turret. Haunter, again, incredible amount of respect, backs all the way up, actually bases, just gets a shopping while he can. So another turret trade, and we'll continue the theme of this game. It is so even.
And in these long trades, you have to look at the mid lane, see if there's any wins. We can see very much there isn't, arguably. Wild Turtle getting CS over the enemy jungler is something small, but I feel like we will get to the point where Galio will have the auto push in long lanes and perhaps the playmaking ability, but it still feels like that point eludes us. We still are very much at 22 minutes.
So I do actually feel with the Bomby Cinder and the Tiamat, Haunter can push lanes relatively quickly. I think the main wave clear advantage that MMD had was earlier, so TSM getting out of that point of the game a little bit here.
Looks like Hurricane next for Turtle, though. Did actually go back and spend that gold. Zeal completed, recover ready. Not going to be able to quite insta-push this mid lane, but he's back in his little fortress right now. He's got 2 pink cords on the other side, plenty of neutral vision in the river there. And again, if the plan is to kind of play through 12, at least moving into that mid and late game and be confident in their team fighting, everything's going to plan for TSM, but Flash Wolves are happy to play this as well.
Yeah, and Flash Wolves has that minor advantage as far as item completion points. They have 2 major items on their top lane, Tank, Sunfire, Iceborne Gauntlet. That is really going to hurt TSM's chances if they fight at Drake, because Turtle and Svenskeren haven't even completed 2 items apiece yet. And also, you look at Betty, with a Phantom Dancer completed, Wild Turtle gets to complete his Hurricane, Infernal Drake clean up in 30 seconds. Unless TSM can get back to base and complete some of those items, in a heads-up fight, Flashers would have the advantage.
Flashers again looking for a pick. Do stun. Sven Casa barely clips him with the Resonating Strike. But TSM moving through, do clear out all the vision, at least the River and Turtle again, pushing so aggressively, forcing Betty to stay back and giving TSM priority as they're trying to look for a fight here.
A lot of the action's being played around the jungle support ward clearing. Obviously, the easy objective is this Infernal Drake, which does have high priority. Right now, TSM have a lot of defensive warding in the area, but no one kind of has offensive wards to make the Drake safe to start.
And this may be the Drake fight that really breaks open the game for either team. We've seen a lot of even trades and skirmishes. But again, TSM trying to play it very slow. You cannot afford to make mistakes. It is an important Drake that teams do want it, but if a fight goes wrong here, it's probably going to go horribly wrong for the rest of your map.
Yeah, and it's time to use the trigger word again. Passive game so far, but with everything coming up towards the Drake right now, control wards are down. Very well could be a fight soon.
And I feel like the crowd also feel that the Thundersticks were in action here. Loud, resounding cheer. They know that the Infernal Drake might actually be the first flare point in a very quiet 25 minutes. It started.
And it's very hard for TSM to actually engage the fight. They're mainly a counter-engaged team, so Flashwell's having his own control make it incredibly difficult for TSM to contest.
Bjergsen actually looking for a flank. He needs to maybe find a pick onto a carry.
There's Shen.
They're actually going to go in. Svenskeren looks for it, doesn't get it, but Casa maybe now caught out of position. He's going to get CC'd up in the Galio ulti. Not quite enough. There's one pick for TSM, but needs to get a little bit more here. MMD forced to flash away. Betty and Sword Up. Maple Law funneled through the choke. There's a good little stun's going to disengage it.
And it feels like, given the current pace of the game, 1 kill for Infernal Drake's very happy times for the Flash Wolves, because we've seen single picks, Ash Arrow taking down Ari earlier, another trade kill not be turned into objectives. There's still good wave clear here. Can TSM actually take down a top?
That's an arrow lands on the Sven though. MMD taking a lot of damage. Forward actually top from Hunter. They're going to look for the dive, but Galio takes so much damage. MMD's going to live through the onslaught. TSM, little low on health as Maple gonna get the ace in the whole tank by Betty, still pushing.
The courage of the Colossus shield, so clutch right there for MMD as he lands the top. They're gonna try and take this turret down as the TP comes in.
Not enough damage. I don't think Bjergsen fishes for a charm on the left-hand side, but doesn't get it. MMD does burn the global to protect the turret. And again, it's somehow an even trade. I said that could be the fight to break it open, but the team's still playing it safe.
Catch the replay here. TSM wants a hard commit, but Svenskeren doesn't get the smite off. The play here from MMD, I think, is a little bit sloppy. It feels like the hero's entrance is late and largely going to be just not worth it when the Lucian's already so low in health. And from there, of course, there was no extra objective, so it was just a clean Infernal Drake for a single kill trade. So advantage Flash.
Flashwell's also getting a good counter push off in the mid lane. We got to see a glimpse of the way TSM can maybe start team fights, and it's fairly inelegant. It's an ulting in Ari with the Shen ult, getting rid of so many of the spells they generally want to protect Turtle as they get to the later and later game.
And of course, it's the targeted nerf Shen change, where because you're ulting proactively, you're getting much less shield onto the Ari if she's the one making the engage, rather than if you're using it more reactively. So it does mean that Shen will join you, it does mean the first CC will come in, but the turnaround onto Ari is certainly possible from Syndrome.
Well, Hurricane Turtle's starting to storm through mid lane. He's still ready with the wave clear, and it should be even easier. So Flash Wolves, at some point they either need to force an objective, maybe Baron, maybe the next Infernal Drake that's spawning as well. But a lot of inaction here in this game and some close moments, so still waiting to kind of see what happens.
Look, it's a tense game. It's very important in terms of standings, but what we're looking for is the vision wars, because it feels like they've been so defensive so far. We're not seeing Maple cast a Sword Art, do their 3-man rolling in, and actually make deep plays with vision. We're not seeing jungle supports necessarily find windows of power. It feels like the best teams control an area, then play around an area. Here it's more defensive lines of scrimmage, and thus just piling on items for late game fights.
Haunter would be in trouble here though. MMD looking for the taunt, does snag it. Maple here as well, but Haunter's pretty tanky with 2 defensive items. Haunter just going to buy some time for his team. What can TSM done for MMD? Getting aggressed on there by Haunter. There's a good stun from Maple. Great flash show out of the Justice Punch, and Haunter dances around everything.
Yeah, being able to get the Syndra ult out for the expense of his flash shows how that split push does alter a little bit. Grasp for Haunter versus Courage for MMD. The extended trades, Haunter actually does drain tank a little bit if they're fighting for a long time.
What I'm looking at is what is happening with the other 4 members, because no one's coming down to help Haunter, and yet they're not getting a ward advantage. Karma decided to go for a recall, maybe it was out of wards, I wasn't able to tell. TSM is not trading up in other areas of the map where they have a man advantage.
Ton of Baron Vision is about all they got. They might look for a play here though. Chang gonna miss for Bjergsen, looking for Mabel. Karza gets Bjergsen back in. Dancing over, there's the Ash Arrow. Was off and scared, trying to find out. It's the massive answer. Finally makes it in, and there's a Galio ulti for MMD to join the rest of his team. TSM needs to play this carefully as MMD eats a trap. Total does have last swift, but he's gonna need to shoot a lot of bullets into this Galio to kill him.
Unbelievable amount of shields coming through right there. Bifrost also has Mikhail's Crucible completed, so can kind of bail them out a little bit from CC chains, but that was nearly disaster for TSM.
We finally see one of these outer turrets go down. 28 minutes. Feels like I'm back in 2015, Azir vs. Seraph days with the mid lane turrets never dying. Flash Wolves, though, will start clearing vision around the Baron.
Yeah, so many cooldowns were burned right there, so Flash Wolves can get the vision. That's the difference sometimes between Flash Wolves and other teams, is when they get a small edge, they gain vision off of it.
So risky with TSM, counter pushing that mid lane, looking to bust it open. Bjergsen back with full health. Both teams still waiting on some cooldowns here, but Flash Wolves just retake Baron Vision, and I think that's about it. TSM gonna go back to those lane assignments. Haunter already back down towards the bottom lane.
Getting the mid lane turret for TSM finally allows the Ahri to go for the 1-3-1 that we alluded to, that we expected. Gives you so much more inherent vision with your minions pushing in, but it's just been the stalemate, and it depends who's going to be picking up the CS. Earlier it was Caitlyn, this time it's Betty on the side, so they're just trading farm, and this may be one of those games where because of inaction, because we're not seeing counter plays when we actually see some rare action, it might just be a 50-minute team fight where the death timers mean that if another team fight win and the game's over.
Haunter, I think, gaining traction in this lane, if nothing else. We saw Maple already go down there, try and get a kill, which was not successful. I mean, we definitely saw TSM not do too much other than get Baron Vision, I believe, but that play happens again, especially if the map's a little more open, and TSM might have that avenue to try and win as well. It is at least impressive to see Haunter actually moving the side lanes up rather than just kind of making them neutral.
But we can remember games where Haunter, big on the Fizz, for example, against Rumble. I believe that was actually in the same matchup.
Yeah.
He had kill pressure, and we were always like, okay, he's getting 3-4-man ganks. What's TSM doing on the other side of the map? On that day, it was very little, and on this game, the one time we've seen it, once again, it's very little. So we need to see the jungle support largely make plays around the map when Haunter draws aggro.
Yeah, and right now TSM is trying to get the damage on that mid lane turret because they want mid lane priority before going towards the Infernal Drake. This is the source of conflict. Push mid, go for objective. Push mid, go for objective. Currently, TSM has the push, which makes Flash Wolves would have to come in for a steal.
Well, they've got vision with the Scuttle Crab as well, so something's going to start. Infernal Drake low, they should be able to get it, but as the fight's up, Bjergsen gets out from under the ultimate with Spirit Rush, and TSM are just bailing.
And now the question is, can Flash Wolves get inside track on the mid lane? TSM went all the way around the
England's
Infernal
so
Drake.
far away right now, so the answer should be yes, but it's going to be another 4 or 5 seconds. Yep, it looks like TSM are seeding this. Finally an outer turret will go down.
From Sven, not enough to kill the pesky cannon minion.
And this game is all about the waves right now. As Flash Wolves made the mid lane push, TSM basically decided they couldn't defend it. Haunter goes to push out the top side and get pressure that way. Now, if Flash Wolves decide to go and catch that wave, TSM will try and push into the mid lane, and that's what Flash Wolves would want to get a team fight. So it's a huge bit of mind games, and what can you avoid and what can you get away with?
Now, just pushing a mid lane gives Flash Wolves so many options. You can get that control ward onto the Baron. You can start baiting engages with your pick comp because you actually have the ability to end the short laning phase in the mid lane and actually gain pressure in other parts when you roam.
Well, Haunter was working on the bottom side turret to get the wave all the way pushed up to the tier 2, and Bjergsen with a death cap now is going to annihilate these waves. So TSM, turret might be long if they can take it. Haunter wants it.
Yeah.
TSM going to even the game back up again.
That's exactly the extension we were expecting. Flash Wolves sent both solo laners to side lanes. TSM delayed their recalls in order to get that push. So now they have the pressure back over to Flash Wolves because TSM is now in base and Flash Wolves can get wards around Baron.
Oh boy, this seesaw. It's been not necessarily the most explosive seesaw, but it has been a clear one. And Flash Wolves now actually trying to go for something really big in the context.
TSM stayed a really long time. In 32 minutes, the Baron goes down extremely quickly. TSM not in position to stop
We
this.
didn't use the word, but it's happening anyway. Flash Wolves straight onto the Baron. It is so low on health, and that's going to be Baron over to Flash Wolves Sven. Not in time to steal them. Bifrost's going to be the ulti. Bjergsen going to try and start a team fight, but there's one already dead. Bjergsen moving to the straight though, as Betty flashes in towards him. Haunter is going to join the fight, but spin force to flash away. Haunter, I think maybe sacrificing his life and trying to get a counter kill, but he just doesn't have it. Betty takes him down. Castle still chasing on the Sven, going to strike him down and take him out with a Tempest. TSM lose Baron and 3.
Yeah, TSM did not play the seesaw game properly, and one trend that has been happening throughout this MSI group stage is they don't know when to call it quits. Baron's gone. You lost. Don't fight. You can see the Baron call up, but after the Baron goes away, everyone continues to funnel. And look, you got a global Baron call up. Firefrost still flying in despite the team not being in position to fight.
Exactly, the synergy not there. The first pick comes through, and again, Flash Wolves, they understood that TSM thought they could push an objective, back away, shop, all those other things, and this was the first moment where we see that controlled aggression, making a play without perfect information. This Flash Wolves did not exist at Worlds. Many games this tournament, they haven't been able to pull the trigger and have the killer instinct, and this is a good sign to see on a must-win day for all these teams.
Well, once even game is now very lopsided in favor of the Flash Wolves. 5,000 gold up and counting. 2 minutes of power to play with this Baron and do perhaps irreparable damage to TSM's base.
And that's the thing. Haunter has been winning a split push race against the Galio, but he can't match him right now with the Baron minions. He wouldn't be able to clear them fast enough. Maple also freely hitting these side lane turrets. This is already a big Baron power play, and it's still got 2 minutes left.
Just like the VOD review for TSM after this tournament, be very clear when it comes to when they have pressure, when Haunter's drawing members, making things happen elsewhere. And it's not like the Flash Wolves have an A+ in that category, but they made the one proactive move that's divided the teams in 35 minutes.
Well, see just how much Flash Wolves can get done. Usually the gold standard for Baron is breaking one of those inhibitor turrets, preferably an inhibitor to go with it to line up your next objective, but they'll be happy to just break the base here and really put the stranglehold on this game. Already very far ahead on gold, but it's pretty late into this one still. TSM, some game left to play, but this turret's looking a little unhealthy.
And what Flash Wolves want here is for Karsa, Maple, or Betty to find the right target. Because of the McHales, it's difficult to just do it off an Ash Arrow, which is why they either need to chain stuns into a priority target or have Karsa go in and make a kickback. If they do that, they potentially win off that play. Bjergsen goes in.
We're going to make a really big play there. Actually, now goes back into Betty's down. He's going to find that kill. Now Maple wants to flash out of the way. Good kick from Karsa into the grasping roots, but he is in the hole. Trunks one down. Turtle flashing in for Sword, and he's going to get it with 2 crits to the back.
Sometimes the Hail Mary is exactly what you need in TSM. The second time this game, put the shield on Bjergsen. He'll make a play, and he did it.
And that's the danger as Flash Wolves when you are trying to really punish with that Baron and get Baron and power minions in every wave. If you aren't ready to disengage a hard commit from one team, then you're going to pay the price, and TSM force it very quickly right there.
That was the big moment for TSM this game. Now, of course, it's not a Baron. It's not in any way equitable to what they lost. They had this push priority. Karsa being sneaky, he's not spotted.
Oh, doesn't find Turtle. That could be a mistake, but Gallo going to ride in as well. Bifrost a little low there. Maple's all he's going to take him down. Haunter, he is here, but it's just not enough to save the support.
And that could have been a lot worse for TSM. Bjergsen wasn't even there as they were making that push. We're going to watch this one more time. Bjergsen doesn't get the charm, but Betty still has no flash, so very few ways for him to escape. Bjergsen ulting right into melee range, so Haunter can guarantee the top.
And look, he was the one who demanded the Ahri. It could have been Karma mid, could have just been the Nami drop, but he took the Ahri to make plays like that. In the replay, is it elegant? Not necessarily, but just the aggression in a game of passivity caught Flash Wolves off guard and brought some breathing room for TSM.
Yeah, and track these flashes, because Turtle flashed forward for 1 kill on a support without being able to take a map objective afterwards. Much like when TSM pushed forward to get that mid lane turret and then took very late recalls to give up Baron, that could have huge consequences down the road, because we're about to see Elder Drake come up. And TSM, while they have the extra Zeal completed for Wild Turtle, he doesn't have flash. Maple, Betty, Karsa, any of these guys have a higher chance of punishing Wild Turtle now with no flash.
Now, we complimented the 1-2-3 plays from TSM in a macro case, but in a position like that, where clearly the call was, we're going in, or we have to go in, we have to engage now, suddenly they do make incorrect plays like that, flashing in for a single kill, because in that situation, there was just no realistic massive objective they would gain off it. Certainly 1 kill on a support, the gold's not going to be worth it. And like you say, they may make the right macro play and then Turtle will be caught out with no flash later.
Still a pretty big Baron power play for Flash Wolves. I think close to 5,500 gold. Flash Wolves straight in control of the right-hand side of the snap onto that Elder Dragon. Haunter not even splitting right now, so Looks like top wave is going to cause some additional problems as well for TSM. I mean, Haunter, I think he feels like he has to be here for his team because they know if we're going to win, I think we just have to go for it.
Exactly, and TSM know what they have to do. They know how hard it is to control Elder Drake. And Flash Wolves are good as well. They know that both TSM carries are without Flash, so they're just looking for a pick on anyone. They catch someone, the game is effectively over.
So many wards into the back of the Drake pit does give them temporary vision. They spot Betty there as well. There you can see Maple. Very dangerous. Caster going to block that ace in the hole. Maple does not want to take unnecessary poke.
Using the haste in the hole felt like vision for Inside. Obviously the damage was certainly not going to do anything.
Carson wants one over the wall.
Really good positioning there for Caster. Arrow onto Turtle. Gets out instantly. That was a tight Mikhails there from Biofrost. He does not have QSS.
Mikhails is down. Still lots of CC left. MMD has Flash Taunt. They're bursting down Elder Drake.
TSM have to go for something here. The Drake is low, but not too much damage being taken here for Flash. Haunter in the front of the pit. MMD looks for the play, but Johnson finds his block. Bjergsen onto the backside, looks for the carriage, but gets exhausted. Sands United is going to try one with him, but Turtle already got kicked out. Bjergsen on a rampage, but Turtle's already dead. So it's Garen chasing out Haunter, but they need a little more Benny. Still alive, Haunter trying to chase him down, but Spable does go down. Haunter tries to Benny on the other side, and Elfspan's Garen's going to get chased down. Caster, oh, he's going to find, so it's Garen's going to fight. He's going to get the bit of extra Elfspan. Not going to get it, but he does go down for a trade. 4 for 3, Flash was barely ahead.
So fitting for this game that it ends up a 4 for 3. It looked like a 3 for 3 on first glance. Bjergsen dancing around in what was a very extended fight. You expect there to be a lot less items for the first big fight of the game, but we're already 40 minutes in.
And Betty did an exceptional amount of damage towards the end of this fight, but watching it again, the initiation doesn't actually stick for Flash Wolves. Bjergsen ends up getting a lot of damage as he goes in initially, but watch Wild Turtle, no flash. Karsa kicks him back, he's dead. No chance in that fight, but Bjergsen still does damage along the backside, and now they're two-manning that Baron naturally because no one can take down Betty at the end of the fight. Watch Hunter try, but Betty kites him back.
Felt a lot like they were just trying to pad a fight. They thought they'd want it after picking up
Can he ult in?
Did you go for it? They go for it. He's going to look for it. Tries to steal it. Oh my god! He steals the Elder Dragon!
Team SoloMid gets it through their mid laner. He does it in big style. Bjergsen this game strapped his team on his back on the Ahri, going for those big Shannon plays, and my goodness, he did it again.
And that's just one of those moments. Flash Wolves have two people that can take down the Elder Drake. Neither of them have sweepers. Neither of them have smite. Biofrost throws in the redemption. Bjergsen gets it with the steal and can all right back out.
But it's hard to criticize Flash Wolves when a play around Baron was made in a similar tenure and got them a big lead. This time, they feel like they're caught with their pants down. These are the trades you make when you try to make an educated game, play the game on the razor's edge, and credit to Bjergsen, he made it work.
And track the cooldowns. Flashes back up for the TSM carries, not up for Betty. So this time, if Haunter can get a taunt, Betty can go down very early. So the tides have shifted, especially with the Elder Drake buff.
I mean, Haunter especially, he was already getting a lot of work done in a side lane. Everybody's going to struggle to fight him for the next few minutes as TSM positioning for this Baron. A ton of wards just hanging out through the left side of that pit. Haunter's getting real pressure now.
I like the itemization from MMD going for the Night Spell. I feel like it's been underbought this tournament when we've actually had a relatively large amount of tank top laners, so no GA for MMD, but you know, if he dies through all this armor, then certainly the GA is not going to be a big factor. So we'll see if Betty having a little bit of damage reduction will at least be something.
Yeah, 432 armor for MMD right now, and it's not Bjergsen who's hitting him, so only the damage dealers that are getting to him are physical. They're rushing this Baron down. It gets warded.
No control ward on the Baron there from TSM, so you would have to imagine they were only starting it to turn. I see you shake your head, Jack.
They don't have space for control ward.
That's a good point.
They've decided to build all these cloth armors, and the argument is probably not worth it, but at the same time, if they're ending a fight at very low health, you can make that argument. They're not going for vision denial right now, that's for sure.
Had sweepers that didn't get deep enough into the back of the pit, was afraid of maybe Flash was being behind it, so now they'll get advantage over the Baron as many snapshots are snapped, and they're going for a Flash do a lot of damage.
Seen this before. TSM's going to try and rush in.
All right, Bjergsen's already there. You can see them. Can he steal it again? He's going to go in for it. Looks to try and take one down, but the Baron does go over to Flash with TSM. Going to start a fight. Bjergsen already got onto there by Maple. He takes so much damage running into the pit. Stranglethorn, 3-man knock over Betty. Shuts one down. They need to kill the guy, but he just does too much. Turtle, though, does finally take it down, but here's the GM. Haunter, is he going to time it properly? No need. He's got no flash. Shut down there for Turtle.
Maple having to flash out of the fight so early meant the damage wasn't there for Flashwolf, so MMD being the first to go down as the hilariously tanky Galio. They just didn't have the damage to reiterate, even though it was free firing from Betty. The Baron buff is answered by a lot of kills for TSM.
This game is on a razor's edge. Svenskeren only able to try and steal with his ultimate, but then Flash Wolves are caught in the pit and not able to really retaliate as much because TSM did go in together.
Now, if they had the flash on Ashe that we talked about quite a few times, both flashed out the back, we maybe get 4 Baron buffs, one person has to die, one single tier, and you end up ahead, but giving up quite a lot in that scenario because they made the bold play. Once again, getting the Baron with the bold play, but definitely picking up some casualties as well.
Well, unfortunately for them, dying just kind of decreases the overall Baron duration. Only 2 minutes 20 and Flash Wolves still aren't out on this map getting things started. The longer TSM can delay, the better it is for them. And we're almost 45 minutes in this game. We're at a coin flip teamfight status very soon.
And it's definitely been a coin flip kind of game. It's been 2 teams playing very similar game plans with not a lot to separate them. It's one of those games primed for an MSI moment, primed for something that will be remembered for a long time. There are stars on both lineups that have made massive outplays before. Will it be Karsa with a kick flash? It feels like one carry going down. This late in the game might be decided by that single outplay.
Absolutely, and that's why we're seeing stuff like Guardian Angel trying to come together on the tanks. Not necessarily happy that there's no Knight's Vow anywhere in Hauntzer's late game build, especially when so much is built around Turtles. That damage reduction can come in super clutch when you have a shielder as well to try and keep him alive, but that only increases the difficulty level for Turtle trying to stay safe in these very hectic, high-pressure late-game fights.
And it feels weird because they're kind of, again, they weren't fully committing to protect the Turtles, not all the eggs in his basket, but it's a lot of them. But it's certainly not Sven, where he had 800 redemptions and everything to help him out. Here it's really only the Karma, who might be the first to die, that has a lot of team utility for Turtle.
And the thing with Turtle, look at this item build from Turtle. He is leaning, he's trusting Bifrost with his literal life in this game. Full damage, full aggression, that's the wild Turtle we know and love, but if he gets caught, the fight ends instantly.
Yeah, Mav Malmortius, his only pseudo-defensive item right there. Looks like a sword. It's pointing in one direction. It's all fiery. How is that a defensive item?
When you see double Randuins, how much liberty do you have to build any tankiness? I think you have to largely just invest in your teammates being on point, and that's why, for once, you have to kind of scrutinize Karma's positioning, because if Karma lives, a lot of utility available. If Karma's first to die, then it really is just Turtle, right for the pickings.
Zhonya's now finished with Bjergsen, so these inventories are fully stocked in almost every single lane. Maple's actually working on his own zonies, and without a flash, he might be vulnerable until he can get that item. But I think the big thing for me here is Flash. Sure, they got the Baron, but did almost negative damage. I'm very curious to see what this Baron power play looks like, because they got almost nothing from this.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that happened is Elder Drake disappeared from the map. The team that took Baron immediately disappeared from the map. So we've been very excitedly talking about the prospects of this game, but we are in a bit of a rest and reset phase. Everyone is trying to get their items, get their cooldowns back. There's no major objectives to fight over. So they want a random pick with an Ashe Arrow, and that's what Flash Wolves have the threat of. But for the most part, it's just all about setup until those objectives start coming back online.
Yeah, Baron to Baron, Elder Dragon to Elder Dragon. Otherwise, everything remains even between Flash Wolves and TSM. 5,000 gold lead that's starting to rapidly mean very little. Infernal Drakes on both sides, so really not much to split the two teams.
Look at that little Baron power play. 329 gold for the Flash Wolves.
It's that kind of game, picture time.
Maple just trying to stack up Syndra's orbs. The reason Syndra's do that is because the ultimate will be much more punishing if you have a bunch of orbs already on the ground. We're just hoping someone on TSM stepped a little bit forward and they would get that game-ending pick, because they are getting control in the jungle right here. TSM would make a big mistake if they tried to regain that, because the opportunity cost is not worth the reward.
The awkward spot is you can't really move with your vision like most plays are made when you have this sort of map pressure, because you can't really control ward 2 brushes. It's not item spots for there to be control wards on multiple members. So it feels like the vision from TSM is largely sticking, and Flash Wolves can basically plop that control ward down and really just hope against hope that someone walks in, because otherwise there is always that chance of standing in a ward and the game might go the other way and end off such a brush kill.
in for the long haul here still. I think Bobby Smithy said, looking at about maybe a 50-minute team fight. We're getting later than that at this point. And TSM, they do have Haunter playing these side lanes, what we've seen. When they don't play right, it falls apart quickly. I mean, if that's what TSM still want to do here in this game, they'll have to be careful.
It does feel a little bit like a metaphor for the tournament. There's nothing to separate these teams when there's 4 teams already in the standings, 3 and 5, and really trying, or 3 and 6 for one of them, but still really trying to separate themselves from the pack. This is another game where the difference between TSM and Flash Wolves, it's minute at most.
Yeah, the 5,000 to 6,000 gold lead means nothing. You can see actually maxed items on the first 4 members on the TSM side, and just the chain vest for Karsa would need to be completed for him to reach max items as well. And at that point, it's just the supports who have kept spots for control wards. Incredibly late game right now.
I mean, the smallest advantage you can say is that at least TSM have a true global, whereas the Galio does not. So having a true global in a game like this, where it's not vision, where you're not likely to be collapsed on, can actually be a factor. So where Galio can go in this game, because the channel time on teleport is too long when the game might be decided on a single pick, is actually a little bit limited compared to where Haunter can go.
Well, looks like we're back at it again with the Baron. 50 seconds until it spawns again. TSM first to the area to get some vision down. Elder Dragon's also respawning, which is a pretty rare sight. And a minute 25 for that one. Turtle pokes. Castle blocks it with the Banshees.
Yeah, and right now, the value of your sweeper is so high. Notice how Bjergsen switched over to a third sweeper, so TSM is making a bet here that the blue ward would be less effective than being able to sweep. So that means they have to get position early. If they give out condition, they don't have a way of getting it back.
From Landscott to get shot. There's actually a lot of damage already. Does Flash and Sleep got away, but now Bjergsen moving forward, trying to find another pick.
This could mean TSM onto Baron if it's not
He takes so much damage. She gets down already. Fitzgerald isolating Sorta on the right. Redemption get a reset. Everybody's dead. TSM in a 5v4 now.
Single charm onto Karsa, won the pressure game for TSM. They could turn onto Baron very confidently. Karsa's recalled. TSM for now, though, aren't forcing anything.
Yeah, that's when TSM had to make the pick, though, because they had no way of getting vision back if they concede that territory. The vision denial for now pays off, but they don't make a play right off it. They had a window. Karsa was super low, and they'd had the kill, but they decide to play it safe.
Getting a pick like that at 48 minutes and not getting anything. Of course, no space in inventories for wards, but not even pushing up with the Sightstone to get wards down is unbelievable, honestly.
Hugely disappointing. They go catch a wave in the bottom lane, they go back up. Still 30 seconds with MMD, but Karsa, Banshees veil up. Gonna be trying to look for a steal, and the controller's not deep enough. It doesn't see the ward.
No sweepers out, so we could be in 50-50 territory. Karsa gonna line it up. There's the first Q. No flash for Karsa. He needs to do this. So TSM wait it out, very patient here.
The tournament could be decided on this.
Bertrand looking at this as well. Haunter actually done a block it out. It's the top 13. Oh no! Maple stole the Baron! Fitzgerald just didn't use the smite.
So much wrong about what TSM did right there. Biofrost needs to ward deeper in the pit, and also, we've seen a lot of teams try and evolve the way they do Baron. You keep it at about 2,000 health, and then you arbitrarily pick a time to burst. They don't do that. It's down at around 1,000. Now, they just keep going, but now it's a 5v5. This is a panic move by TSM. They're trying to fight their way out.
Ninja can't be there, though. There's limited members here for Flash Wolves.
They can see him now. They need to make a play with the Elder Drake. MMD caught a little out of position. Betsy's so aggressive. Flash Wolves just trying to make time for Maple and cut them off.
They're trying to get turrets right now. I mean, Maple's got a free push in the bottom side. Flash Wolves can't actually fight them. They're trying to at least open up an inhibitor.
Running back in, Maple should be able to get this, but I don't think you can get the in-hit. TSM, very defensive, but they didn't have the vision this late into the game. 51 minutes, inventories are stocked. Maple backs off. He actually didn't even get the... Oh, he did barely get the turret in top lane as it falls.
Smart from Flash Wolves. No reason for them to keep contesting. They back away and respect TSM. But as you say, Jet, a lot of mistakes here. Watch this. The W kills it. 11.
That true damage from Syndra's W at max rank.
Crap. Wow. That's just insane stuff.
I guess I can't blame them for missing it, but that sucks for TSM. What a great steal by Maple as Flash Wolves with a brutal looking siege.
But again, Flash Wolves would not have been able to do that if Biofrost control wards deeper in the pit, where it would actually matter.
And they can't double control ward because there's only one control ward slot on the team. So they have to get it right in that scenario. And that misplay, which we've seen before in this tournament, again, this game is so central to both teams' chances of making top 4.
And now it's all about trying to get an initiation on to Flash
Big
Wolves.
play, Bjergsen taking down, everybody's Zonies is through. Haunter gonna redrum an MMD with a defensive ultimate. Actually taking a lot of damage. Flash Wolves to Maple, goes down to Haunter. TSM gonna fight their way out of the Baron. Flash Wolves ready. Ace in the hole, does get the kill.
will just decide it. TSM is going to shove down mid. They still have Elder Dragon Bar.
They have to escort their minion wave to get rid of the backdoor bars. Hanzo kills the fourth. It's just Carson alive.
Carson charmed up by Bjergsen. He's going to buy all the time TSM needs.
Yeah, Bjergsen trying to stop Carson from proxying waves. They're ushering in this minion wave. 40 seconds on Maple. He's the closest. I think TSM's done it.
Buckler's patience might cost them here. They didn't get any in here, so they never had access to the pushing. Hanzo now going to take it up. One Nexus turret under fire. 30 seconds or more on everyone else at Flash Rules. There's one. TSM. We're going to turn the trick again. Bjergsen finishes the ace, and TSM will keep their dreams alive. A 50-minute game. Take down Flash Rules.
And we have to take a moment to catch our breaths after that ending because it was so much back and forth and back and forth the entire game.
And it's a sort of situation now where in the end, TSM make the larger errors, but because we're at 52 minutes, they make the picks, they get the kills, they end the game. And you might say, okay, what does this mean for these two teams going forward? It's about getting top 4, and then you actually have the latitude of 4 days to watch VODs and actually make it through the bracket stage and not 4 days to watch VODs while you're back home.
Yeah, I would say TSM had the macro plays wrong, but the team fights right.
Agreed.
Every time they needed to get the Shen-Ari combo to start a fight, they were able to, and that was what decided it in the end.
And we came back to the old point of what's Flash Wolves team fighting in the late game like. Again, you could scrutinize the fact that they lost their first game of the regular season, won 28 in a row, and then dropped a single game to AHQ. There was some late games, but there wasn't that many for the Flash Wolves over the course of the LMS, and it did feel like when the fights needed to be won, it was TSM.
I'd like to officially welcome Bjergsen and Hanzo into the tournament, because I feel like that is one of the first times this event where you have seen both the carriers of TSM show up. You could see it in Bjergsen with that Drake 2, you could see it in Hanzo there with that taunt to try and end the game. It's not pretty, but you have to dig deep and play with heart, and that's exactly what the carries did.
Yeah, it was just such a back and forth game, and you have to be mentally tough throughout those games. 2 Barons going over to the Flash Wolves throughout the course of that game. 2 Elder Dragons going over to TSM through the course of that game. Elder Dragon steal by Bjergsen, Baron steal by Maple. They were trading punches, but it's TSM who comes off the top in the end.
Well, certainly a long one. TSM have somehow started their day with a win. Jash and the gang are standing by to tell us a bit more.